from the platform for a little while, and it is because I recently moved states. It took a lot of saving, research, and planning, but I did it, and I did it as a single parent, and now I am here to talk to you about how it was done in the hopes that it will encourage or help you. Let's get this straight right away. I am not a family lawyer, and I am in no way giving you legal advice. I am only sharing my experience of what I needed to do legally after having consulted with a family attorney in the county where I was living at the time. To give you a brief and very simple picture of my situation, I am separated from my son's father and I have full custody. In our custody papers, it states that either parent has to notify the other parent if they plan on moving more than 60 miles away with reasonable written notice. When I consulted with the family attorney, this was reaffirmed to me. I was told that if I were planning to relocate more than 60 miles away, I needed to provide written notice to the court and to my son's father. The attorney told me that reasonable notice can be considered 30 days. Preferably in the county where I was living, it's 60 days, but 30 days is still considered reasonable. This gives the other parent the opportunity to contest the document that I provided to the court. I took straight to the court and handed it over to them. To my son's father, I had it physically mailed because that's what I was obligated to do, and by choice, I put tracking on the letter. All of that was done 30 days prior to my move. I also made sure that I documented and screenshot all conversations with my son's father pertaining to our upcoming move. Your best bet is to speak to a family lawyer that practices in the county where you are living. Moving isn't cheap, especially not across state lines and especially not as a single parent. I saved money for over a year, not just in preparation for moving, but in preparation for any type of an emergency that could potentially happen. Saving is important in all walks of life, no matter what you're planning to do. Do the very best that you can to save your money. Pay yourself first. I moved about 1,400 miles, and just for my cost alone, I had to pay close to $2,500. That includes the 2 U-boxes that I had to rent. That also includes the movers that I hired to load and unload in both states. And that includes hotels, gas, and food while we were driving to our new home. The reason why this might sound a little cheaper than what you were expecting is because I got lucky in renting U-boxes at a time that U-Haul was having a promotion. I booked all of my hotels looking for the cheapest option that I could find using kayak.com. And I also bought a lot of food prior to our travel so that we didn't have to spend a lot of money eating out. We ended up only eating at a restaurant about once a day. Typically that was either breakfast or dinner. And then the rest of our food was covered by fruits, almonds, beef jerky, crackers, plantain chips, potato chips. You get the idea. Another important consideration for you to make is the cost of living in your current city versus the city where you want to live. I was living in one of the most expensive areas in the country, so I knew that my new move was going to be a decrease in cost of living, not substantially, but enough for it to feel like I got a salary raise. All you have to do is Google cost of living comparison, and Google will then produce several different websites that have cost of living calculators for you to choose from. You can even use different ones just to try and get a second, third, or fourth perspective. Lastly, please do not relocate until you have a job lined up in your new location, unless you already have a year's worth of savings that will cover your move, your cost of living for a year, and any potential emergency that could happen. Now that I have that out of the way, I am incredibly fortunate and grateful to have been able to keep my job. My job followed me with this move. However, before I became a mom, I had moved states before. Even further, we're talking 3,200 miles, and I did it twice. I have worked in the same industry for several years. So when I apply to a position that is within the same industry, I typically will get an interview somewhere. Post-pandemic, businesses and organizations across the board are much more open to virtual interviews than what they used to be. Also, within the past 10 to 15 years, at least here in the US, we have become such a nomadic society that when you are attempting to relocate and you're looking for a job ahead of time, I notice that people do not look at it with the same raised eyebrows that they used to about 15 years ago. I'm saying that to let you know you do not have to feel intimidated by applying to a job that is 3,200 miles away from where you are now. As someone who has moved states 3 times now, I can tell you that Zillow has always been a great resource for me. The postings are legitimate and you can filter for what you want, for example, price or size, among other things. Zillow.com is where I have found all of my apartments where I have lived within the past 10 years. So that is my recommendation. Once I narrowed down the city where I would be living in, I simply Googled daycare in such and such area. I read reviews, asked for virtual tours, and asked to read policies, and went from there. I had 3 virtual interviews with 3 different daycares before deciding where my son would go. And he absolutely loves it, and so do I. If your child is old enough to be in school, you can of course always Google school ratings. Ooh, also on Zillow.com, they do already have that added into their features for school ratings and neighborhood ratings. Forgot to mention that. Healthcare is another important logistical piece to plan for. You obviously do want to make sure that you have health insurance, whether that is through your employer or through the state if you qualify. I have always used ZocDoc to find providers for both me and my son. That's what I like. If you have other recommendations, drop them down below. When it comes to packing and moving, you gotta get really real with yourself about what you and your kids are still actually using and what is just taking up space. I donated, sold, and threw away so much shit. My son will turn 2 in about 3 months, and I was so caught up in the storm of being a first-time mom and then a single mom, I honestly did not realize how much stuff from his newborn and baby stage that we didn't use anymore, we didn't need anymore, and it was just hanging out, collecting dust, not doing anything but taking up space. Start cleaning out sooner rather than later because it will take you so much more time than what you think it will. Donate, sell, throw away if it's not reusable. My rule of thumb is that if you haven't used it in the past 6 months, you do not need it. I mean, other than, Christmas decorations and stuff like that, you know what I mean? I did not pay for any of my boxes and I moved a 2-bedroom apartment. I called up liquor stores and asked if they would give away boxes after receiving shipments, and every liquor store that I called said that they would do it. And liquor store boxes are the best boxes because a lot of them come with dividers, and those boxes are so sturdy and durable. Sometimes people will also give away boxes on Facebook Marketplace or sell them for very cheap. When it comes to the actual traveling piece, most especially if you are driving, make sure that you are prepared to make many stops for bathroom breaks, stretching breaks, snack breaks. I mean, they're kids, what are you gonna do? Something that I often told myself during the planning and execution of this move is that just because something is the right thing to do, that doesn't mean that it will feel good, at least not immediately. Sometimes the good feeling is delayed. It's okay to be nervous about starting over and to be nervous about the unknown, but I really want you to also acknowledge how incredibly brave it is. I also want to encourage you to remember why you made this decision. And I want to encourage you to not let fear run your life. You are in control of your life, not your fears, not your anxiety, not your doubts. The last thing that I will say here, or the last point that I will make, is that if you do happen to have a co-parent who is caring, attentive, responsible, loving to their child, please do everything in your power to make sure that that relationship stays intact. Obviously, is also the responsibility of the co-parent. They also need to follow up and be present. I'm only saying that if you have a co-parent who genuinely cares and shows up for their child, don't get in the way of that. At the end of the day, you know your situation better than I do, better than anyone else does, and you know why you are making the decision that you're making. You know what is best for you, and most importantly, you know what is best for your child. If you got any advice about moving, or if you need support, drop a comment down below. Do not forget to like and subscribe so that we can hang out more, and I will see you in the next video.